Today we'll be diving beneath the surface, into the depth of underwater wildlife and nature photography, and how you can achieve some amazing looking shots of marine life. It's no secret that underwater photography comes with a bunch of challenges. It's a whole different environment that requires certain understanding if you want to go on underwater adventures with a camera. To help me with this, I visited my good friend and professional underwater photographer, Mick Friis.
Hello!
Hello!
Welcome!
Thank you.
Let's go get some coffee first.
Ah, that's a good idea. Hey, Morten! Good to see you.
So, this is Kingfish. I'm fortunate enough to have my studio located at one of the biggest dive shops in Scandinavia.
Mick is my filmmaking partner through many years now, and we have been doing a whole lot of productions together, both above and underwater. Besides being an amazing photographer in general, Mick is a highly skilled diver and actually a certified cave diver. He travels the world to shoot and document underwater seascapes and not least, marine life. And his work is absolutely breathtaking.
Okay, Mick, we are sitting here in your studio, and today we'll talk about underwater photography and filmmaking. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Since I'll consider you're an expert in that field, so...
All right, thank you. Happy to be here.
Nice.
In my own studio.
I think we should just start diving right in.
Yeah,
because many of those who will be watching, they maybe haven't even started diving or tried diving, being in the water. So what would you say if you should just start with underwater photography? How would you start?
Well, I guess most people starting in underwater photography usually comes from either being already a photographer, starting diving, or being a diver, starting photography. The first thing is get in the water. So if you have never tried any kind of diving or shooting underwater, I would recommend just starting snorkeling maybe. You could also go for a try dive and actually just get in the water, see if you actually like the whole experience of it.
Yeah, so it's about the experience, about being in the water. Do you like that? Because that's like essential for this. So if you like it in the water and you haven't done any diving before, you always tell me that it's really important you get comfortable in scuba diving before you start to do something else.
Scuba diving is it's not a dangerous sport, but it can be dangerous. Like, we're underwater, it's an unnatural habitat for us to be in. So I would definitely say become a decent scuba diver before you start carrying around a camera or focus on a camera underwater. So start actually doing the course and get some experience with diving first.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of different gear you need when you're scuba diving.
Yeah, scuba diving can be pretty gear extensive. So you could divide it into two parts. There's the whole like exposure protection part of it. That's your wetsuit, your boots, your gloves, all of that, like the protection from the exposure around you. Yeah. And then there's the whole scuba unit, which is your BCD, your regulator, the stuff that allows you to breathe underwater. Yeah. And then you have your ABC equipment. That's your mask, your snorkel, and your fins. That's actually 3 parts, but that's the 3 parts of dive equipment that you have. And then you have all like the extra stuff, which could be all kinds of safety equipment and stuff like that, but it could also be a camera.
When you have learned diving and you feel like comfortable, then you advance into photos and videos, that whole field.
Most people actually, when they start diving, it comes pretty natural after a little while. They want to, because you're very alone with the experience when you're down there in the water. So most scuba divers at some point wants to show everyone at home what they experienced. So it comes pretty natural for most people to at some point want to buy some kind of camera. Maybe it's just a GoPro or something.
Yeah, you want to share the experience, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I know that feeling.
Yeah. You've seen something amazing and you want to show it to the world. Yeah.
Well, I saw.
And you could also just go Google a picture of a turtle and show it to everyone, but it's not the turtle that you saw. So
exactly.
Yeah.
You start diving, you have a lot of gear already, and then you go further because
then you buy more gear.
You buy more gear. It's almost like more gear, but then you go into the photography part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
What would be the range if you want to start shooting on the water?
I would say you could kind of divide like underwater cameras into 4 categories.
Yeah.
So you have your, I can actually show you.
Yeah.
I'll get some cameras.
I'll drink some coffee meanwhile.
So.
Need coffee. Okay.
This is probably like the entry-level end of it.
Yeah.
It's a GoPro in underwater housing, and it's a underwater housing for a smartphone.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's an oceanic housing, but it could be all kinds of different housings. But basically, the concept is that you have your regular smartphone, which these days are super great cameras in itself, and you just take those underwater. So you can use either of these as both a photo and a video camera. I would say something like a GoPro is definitely a better video camera than it is a photo camera, but you could use it for both. So the next step up from those would be something like this. This is a compact camera in an underwater housing.
Then you're starting to use something that's like more like a real camera.
Yeah,
kinda. Not
exactly.
That these are not cameras because they are, but
they're all cameras. But this is more like what you would know,
the regular camera.
What you would, what you would expect from a camera. It's like a small compact. This one is like a small Canon compact camera. But the thing about these is that they still have the lens permanently attached. So it's not like a system camera where you can change lenses and stuff like that. And that makes the whole system a little more simple and not as expensive as well.
Okay.
So it makes it smaller and lighter and easier to work with. But it still gives you a lot of the benefits of a big camera because you have all the controls and you can do a lot more with it than you can with these. And the next step up from that would be something like this.
But then we go heavy duty.
Yeah, this is for my big setup. This is for my Canon R5. This is like a full system camera. You have I have a mirrorless camera sitting in this one, and I have lenses attached for it. And whenever you change lenses for something like this, you also have to change the housing port for the lenses. So whenever you buy a new lens that you want to bring underwater, you need to buy a new port for it as well also.
Makes sense.
So for this one sitting on right now, this is the big dome, and this is for wide angle photography. So if you want to change over and you want to do macro stuff like that, you need to change the port to a macro port.
Yes.
And you put your lights on, and you can have a screen on, and you can have all kinds of extra equipment on this one. You have to also remember when you start to use something like this that this makes you one-handed for your whole dive. You're not just clipping this off and just leaving it somewhere. No. This fills your one hand, at least one hand for the eternity of the dive. Yeah. So you need to, whenever you start working with something like this, you need to have that in mind, that you actually have to be able to do everything one-handed. Yeah. I would usually not recommend anyone to bring their camera for the first maybe 10, 20, 30 dives. Depends on who you are and how quickly you learn. But in the beginning, you way too quickly get hyper-focused on the camera. And you need to be able to control your buoyancy, make sure you're not kicking stuff up, and make sure you're not hitting other divers and stuff
because
like that.
You'll become a better photographer if you're a good diver. So get good at the diving, and then you have everything you need to become a good photographer afterwards.
Exactly.
When we look at this, and I say, okay, this is for wildlife photography, it's so different from what I'm used to, because we have those long lenses when you're on land, you're not in water, and 99 times out of 100 times, the animal is really far away. Yeah. And you have to zoom in, and you have to be really quiet. You have to wait like hours and hours maybe, and hope for the animals to come. Yeah. When you look at this and you talk about wide angles and stuff, thing has to be right in front of you.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
For a guy like me, it would be like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like they are already seeing you, and it's far away. That's the fun thing about this, because that's where we do the same thing, but again, we don't. Yeah.
We've been comparing these niche kinds of photography styles for a while. Yeah. And there's some key things that are the same, but there's also some really key differences. Yeah. Like you said, we usually use like super wide angle lenses. Yeah. We get usually a lot closer to the animals. And also the stuff that you said, you guys are waiting for the animals, we're mostly looking for the animals. Yeah. And that works superior for me because I'm not a very patient person.
I've noticed.
I'm not good at just sitting somewhere looking at a plain field for 7 hours, hoping for one bird to come in.
You went out looking for the shorted out, and you did good.
Yeah, I try. I do my best when I am there, and I also enjoy it, but I couldn't do it every day like you guys do. I like to go in the water and I like to swim around and look for the animal, and I'm patient in that way because you do a lot of diving where you see nothing.
Yeah, because we both have our challenges and our opportunities. One of your challenges obviously is that you're breathing underwater, so you have like limited time, of course.
Yeah.
We can always wait an hour or two more if we feel that's necessary, but
that's why we just bring more tanks.
Yeah, but you have to go up and go one more time, so you have like that limited time. The challenge also where we see the animals, they're so far away. Most of the time they don't know you're there, and that's how you can get that kind of normal behavior. But with you, I've seen sometimes, you just mentioned sharks, for example. You have sharks like they are only a few meters in front of you.
Yeah, they know you're there. They just don't care.
Yeah, but it's the same with turtles, with fish, and so on. And someone could be tempted, like, should they touch them? Because,
Yeah, there's definitely something about ethics there. I mean, you should, in my opinion, never touch the animals. That also goes for the corals and the whole reef. Yeah. That's why I also talk about practicing good buoyancy. Yeah. Be respectful of the animals, keep your distance. Of course, we want to get close to the animals, but there's different ways of getting close to an animal. Be there, be present with it, and enjoy your time with it, but don't be an obstacle to it. Yeah. That's how I see it, at least.
Obviously, you like the wide lens. Yeah. And then you also do a lot of macro.
Yeah.
What benefits is there for the wide angle? When would you use that? And what benefits is there for the macro? When would you use that?
I mean, for the wide angle, it's pretty obvious. It's big animals like sharks, whales, all kinds of big animals. It's other divers and seascapes, like big reefs. Also, a big thing of these domes is that you are able to do like the split shots. Oh yeah. With the
above and below water.
Above and below water. Exactly. You will be able to do that if you have like a big dome like this.
That's the dome that does that.
The dome keeps some distance between the lens and the water. That makes it a lot easier to align the water level in the middle of the shot. And that gives you a lot of opportunities to do lots of creative stuff.
But then you have actually taken it further to the macro.
Yes, I have I use 100 millimeter macro. It has its own lens port because it's a longer lens, and it also doesn't need the dome. That makes you able to shoot a lot of like really close-ups. You can be a little further away from the animals, and you can get into the smaller animals. So shoot fish, all kinds of small critters on the reef. And you can actually also use it for the bigger animals, but you'll be more into the details. I do shots like facial portraits of the turtles, and you can go all into the eyes of the shark, or you can do more like textures of the reef on the corals and stuff like that. You can also get in close and see like more of the animal behavior.
Then you see all those small details that you maybe wouldn't see.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can see all the small patterns, the colors, the whole hidden world.
Yeah.
Obviously the same thing with macro, like out of the water, but in here it's such an alien world.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of your shots when you just zoom in like with the macro. It's unreal, some of it, because it's so alien.
Yeah. It gives it like a completely different view. You get completely into the fish, and you actually see like the facial expression of the fish, and you get so close to it that you can almost identify with it in some way. That gives just a completely different perspective to it.
Okay, so being a professional underwater photographer, how do you utilize those skills? Like, what do you spend the time doing?
I've now been fortunate enough to do this almost full time for a few years now. Not only underwater photography, but all kinds of like adventure photography. I work with Kingfish, the dive center that we're also located in right now. I do a lot of marketing stuff for them. also a teacher. So I teach scuba diving. That doesn't have a lot to do with photography, but but it's kind of in the same range. Then I'm also a travel guide.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate enough to take people all around the world to do scuba diving and also photography.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a videography course that we're running in Egypt once a year. Then apart from working with Kingfish, I also work with a production company in Denmark. You know them, you also work with them, but I do most of their underwater stuff for like TV production. We're actually shooting for a documentary right now. So I've been spending a lot of time this year shooting actually here in Denmark, especially at night, working with like eels and
we're shooting all kinds of animals.
All kinds of animals, yeah. That's been a lot of fun.
So when you take guests to these travel destinations, because you do that a lot, when we're not working together, you're always traveling.
I would also like to travel more. I've just been to the Maldives, you know that, and that was incredible. The Maldives is pretty much known for the big animals, and you have a lot of those there, and they're easily accessible. And we saw everything from whale sharks to tiger sharks and bull sharks and all kinds of
sharks
big animals.
all over.
Just a lot of sharks.
I saw a lot of sharks in the story.
And that was just, I really like sharks. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. We also had tons of manta rays.
I saw they were just like right next to your boat and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you were sailing around in a boat when you dive from the boat.
Yeah.
For those who don't know that.
Yeah, it's a liveaboard trip.
Yeah.
So you sail around and you just live on the boat and you go diving and you eat and you sleep and you go diving and you eat and you sleep. And that's the only thing you pretty much do for like 9 days. We had like a full day of manta diving basically. So at some point, the sky above you just gets dark and then there's just this huge animal just coming in over you like
they have those big wings.
Yeah, basically. They have the big wings.
Looks like it's just flying through the water.
It's incredible. I've done it a lot of times by now, but still gives me the chills every time. Like it's such a majestic animal. I can't even explain it. Yeah. We do this night manta show because in this area there's a lot of manta rays. So we go diving just next to the boat, just go in the water, drop down to the seabed. Then we put the lights that we bring with us in a circle on the bottom. There's a lot of plankton that goes into the light because it's attracted by the light. And the manta rays are attracted by the plankton because that's what they eat. Yeah. So they'll go into the light, and because you placed it in a circle, they'll pretty much stay there with you.
And then you are all around.
We'll be all around the circle and with like a little bit of distance, so you can just stay there, and it'll stay with you for like as long as the lights are on the bottom. It's just incredible. Such a beautiful show.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Then when you get into it, there's like a lot of other things to be seen than just the animals. Yeah. We have these amazing coral reefs with all the colors and all the formations and stuff like that. I went to Iceland, for example, dived in Silfra, which is like this, it's a place where the continents have broken up and made a lot of crevices. So you dive between these huge walls of stone with completely crystal clear glacial water in the middle.
Like regular photography, like landscape photography.
Exactly.
But just underwater
landscape photography,
exactly.
Seascape photography.
Yeah.
And Dag.
Yeah, he's just photobombing like the... Så kom ind og vær med.
Så kom. Okay, so this is Morten. Morten is the owner of Kingfish, and he's just annoying when you're trying to do a shoot.
Mick is...
I'm coming asking you if you want some coffee today.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Did you bring us coffee?
My cup is down there.
Want to hear you?
my cup is down there.
Cappuccino.
Maybe we can finish this if he brings coffee. That would be...
Big espresso.
That would be nice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You're talking about like the seascapes.
Yeah, I went to Malta, dived all the wrecks they have there. There's a lot of shipwrecks, both artificial wrecks and real historical war wrecks. It actually kind of resembles urbex photography a little bit. Going in to see old abandoned buildings, there's a lot of people that goes into that, and that feels kind of the same. I used to do that way back in my day.
I remember.
Like I did a lot of the urbex photography, and going into wrecks now feels a lot like urbex photography. Really old wrecks, they get completely rusty, and they also get overgrown with all kinds of anemones and stuff like that, and nature kind of takes back the thing, and they become artificial reefs. So they are usually a good place to see animals as well. So you go dive the wrecks, and
and he's back. Oh, with the tray.
with the tray, the shark tray.
Okay, so what? Oh, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, so you're talking about wrecks.
I was talking about wrecks.
Yeah. A few years back, we did a trip to northern Norway where we were up sailing around.
With the orcas.
Yeah, with the orcas and the big humpback whales and stuff.
Yes.
And
that was incredible.
Yeah, that was when I got that kind of experience of something so big being so close to you, and that was insane. And we were there because we were producing a video for Kingfish, because they were doing these expeditions where you could actually go in this. It's like almost 0 degrees Celsius, the water. It's freezing cold. It's in the middle of the winter. There's 2-3 hours of light.
Yeah.
And you do that because you want to both, of course, watch and see orcas, but also dive with them.
Yes.
We went there together, and that was it's still like one of my absolute favorite experiences. What was your take on it? Because mostly you do hot water travels. How did you feel on that trip? Because like I'm still shaking just thinking about it, because it was crazy.
That was definitely also like a big experience for me. I've been there twice. Sometimes they have great weather and completely flat water and stuff like that. We were there at some pretty rough times. We had rough waters and short hours, snow, ice. It was like
really windy.
It felt like an expedition. It was incredible. And we also had a lot of trouble with actually getting in the water with the orcas. Some people just get to lay there with them all the time. Yeah. We only had like several moments with them. Yeah. But when you actually get to lie there and look down on an animal of this size laying like 2-3 meters from you, and it's an apex predator as well, you feel it all the way through your bones. It's 100%. Incredible.
Yeah, it's the same thing, because sometimes people say like, how do you dare to dive with orcas? I think maybe people would say the same thing with sharks, because it's predators.
Yeah.
And I know with the orcas, it's because they come from out of sea into the fjords because of the herrings. So they hunt them, so they don't see you as prey. But how do you feel when you go down with sharks? Isn't that dangerous?
Yeah. I mean, I would not sit here and say no, there's no danger in diving with sharks, because sharks is also an apex predator. Of course, there's always a chance to get bit by a shark when you go diving with them. But at the same time, sharks are made out to be a lot more of like a killer animal that it actually is. It's not an aggressive animal, like at least towards people. We're not in its food chain, and we're not really interesting to them. When someone actually gets bit by a shark, it's usually like an accident.
Yeah.
The shark they experience stuff with their teeth and with their mouth.
Yeah.
So just like a dog would sometimes like bite something to actually find out what is this.
Yeah.
And if you like behave in the right way around sharks, that's usually not an issue. At least for me, I've done quite a bit of shark diving now, and I've never seen any sharks get aggressive towards any humans.
Everyone who has been with sharks, they actually say the same thing. So
there's been movies like Jaws, and Hollywood has not done a lot of good stuff for like the reputation of sharks.
A little bit like the wolves.
They've just been made out to be this incredibly aggressive monster of a creature, an evil creature that just wants to eat humans as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not.
You were also diving with a crocodile.
Yeah.
Like, why were you diving with a crocodile?
Why?
It wasn't seen.
Because I was in the jungle and we were going diving, and I spotted a crocodile and I wanted to film it.
Yeah.
So that's the why. Yeah. I think those are so cool as well. They're just big lizard with teeth.
They're so beautiful.
They're so cool.
They look like a dinosaur.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this one was not like, it wasn't like a big crocodile. It's maybe 1 meter, 1.5 meters or something like that.
Yeah.
They're just super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was so chill. It wasn't scary for a second. He was just chilling there. I went over. I was trying to take a few pictures of him, and then he just started to pose and swim around me. And he also went diving a little bit. And
you got some amazing shots.
I just had the best time with him. Yeah. His name is Steven. He lives at the. It was in.
He's a local.
He's a local. Yeah, exactly. And everyone who lives in the area and goes diving there, and they know him. So there's like, that's just Steven.
That's why he was so photogenic, because that's another one with the camera.
He's probably been photographed like 100 times before.
You have taken the whole diving part way more serious than like the regular diver. Some time back, you went to Mexico to do a cave diver course. So you're actually a certified cave diver now.
Yes.
And at the same time, when you were doing that course, you were also filming a documentary about that course. So you were taking the course and all the focus that had to put into that. And then you took the camera and was like, why shouldn't I just film it at the same time, tell the whole story and do everything at once? So you did that. And maybe you should tell me a little bit about that, because it's obviously, it must have been quite an experience, like diving into caves.
That was an incredible experience, and also like a completely insane project to dive into. So
let's start with the cave diving.
I mean, there's not really a lot of animals in the cave, so this is not, I wouldn't say this is wildlife photography anymore. It's some kind of exploration where you get to see some of the things that Mother Earth has to offer you. Just like going hiking in the mountains, you just go there to see the nature around you, you see the incredible weather, and you see all of the rock formations that Earth has created. And that's the same here, but you also get the experience that not a lot of people has actually been in these caves, especially the flooded caves.
Yeah.
You have stalagmites and stalactites like hanging from the ceiling, and the roots from the trees above growing down and into these rooms. And some places it's small and thin and you need to almost like crawl through it, and some places it just opens up and you have like a cathedral underwater that you're just swimming through. The water is completely crystal clear. There's no light there. It's completely pitch black. Like the darkest place on Earth is in these caves. It's just beautiful.
It must feel like unearthly somehow.
Completely.
Like,
it's so out of this world that it feels man-made in some way, because you're like, it's just incredible.
So some people also say that when diving, it's a little bit like being an astronaut on Earth. But I guess it would be like that when you're, especially like that when you're cave diving, because it's...
Definitely. It's really hard to describe, but you feel completely out of this world when you're in there. Yeah. It's just like a testament to nature's beauty in some way. It's just incredible.
So it was maybe because you've been doing so much diving, so you just wanted to experience something new with diving.
Definitely,
more or less. Like seeing so many.
I've actually been like intrigued about the caves since I started diving. It's been something we've talked about ever since I started diving. But in the beginning, it was more like, whoa, these people that are diving in caves are crazy. I'll never do that. And then like 13 years later, you're like,
that's pretty exciting.
That looks pretty fun.
You mentioned that cave diving is a demanding course to take.
Yes.
What are the things that makes it this demanding?
Cave diving is what we would consider technical diving, because it involves a higher level of risk. So if you want to go, for example, deeper than what are the usual recreational limits, which would be 40 meters. So if you want to go deeper than that, or if you want to go inside of wrecks or caves or other kinds of overhead environments, that is what we would call technical diving.
Because you're not able to just go to the surface.
That's like the primary difference of it, that you don't have a straight exit to the surface anymore. So you have to be able to solve your problems underwater
Yeah.
That means that you need a lot more training and you need a lot more equipment. It's super easy to get lost in a cave. It's completely dark and there's a lot of risk involved with cave diving. So you practice working with the line. We always have like a continuous guideline in cave diving. You never dive without it. So you always have a line going back to open water. And you need to have experience with working without your eyes, for example. So you spend a lot of time with a blindfold on. Working with a partner, you have to use touch contact because you can't see each other, so you communicate with touch. And you have to feel your way through the cave, feel the cave, feel the line.
Hand becomes your eyes.
Your hands actually becomes your eyes, exactly. And you need to be able to find your way out of a cave without seeing anything.
Yeah, so you obviously went there, you took the course, and you were also, since we're talking about like underwater videography as well, you're making a documentary about that course.
Yes.
Maybe you should tell a little bit about that.
There's a lot of like documentaries about cave diving, but more in the regards of like pushing whatever mankind has been able to, and also like the geological part of caves and stuff like that. But I wanted to do it from another perspective. I wanted to talk more about like the sport of cave diving. How do you actually get into the sport of cave diving? So my documentary is more about how do you actually take a cave course. So you just follow me from Denmark, going to Mexico and meeting up with my instructor and actually going through the steps of taking a cave diver course.
I've seen the documentary and we agreed that we can do a little bit of teaser because you called it Into Earth.
Yes.
Because that's what it's all about. And when you go into Earth and you also want to film, and we talked about it's pitch black. So you have to have some kind of another light source, or you have to work with lights in a different way also to film it. So one thing is to taking the course and all that, but then you also have to film this. So how did you come around with that?
We had to have a little bit of help filming these scenes because
obviously
you need some people to film it while you're practicing. And when you want to do those super cinematic shots that you see, we call them the butt shot. It's like where you see the diver being like a silhouette and you have the whole cave lit from behind the diver. We needed someone else to go there and dive behind
with a light source.
The instructor. With a light source, with a lamp like this or something like that. You need to be able to plan ahead a whole lot, and you need to involve a lot more of like hand signals to say, okay, now I want you to be over here with the camera, I want you to be here with the light, stuff like that to actually be able to do it.
So you also told me there was sometimes where you were focusing on the course and then you went back in actually to refilm some of it because you had to.
Most of the documentary is shot in real time during the course. But there's definitely some things also because you need to, the instructor and the student needs to be involved in the course in such a way that you live up to the standards of the course. So there is some things that is not really able to be shot while the course is going on. So some parts of it is like staged, but they're staged in a way so that the story actually tells the real story.
Of course.
At the moment, it's submitted for 13 film festivals. And some of them, not all of them, but some of them requires it to the movie to not be available anywhere yet, because they want to be the first ones to screen it, which makes sense.
When the documentary is going to be uploaded, we'll put a link in the description. So if there's no link, it's not uploaded yet. But if there's a link, go check it out.
Someday I will definitely put it out there for everyone to see, and I hope you guys will check it out.
So if we should rewind a little bit, we talked about crazy travels and big animals and caves and like out of earth kind of things. Obviously, if you are new into underwater photography and filmmaking, you don't have to necessarily go these places.
I mean, I love the ocean and I would go diving everywhere there's water. I would be the first one to say that traveling is always amazing. I love going places and I love going traveling and diving exotic places and stuff like that. But I also just love diving, and I would encourage everyone to just go diving wherever you live. We live in Denmark. It's not it's not the most exotic diving that you can get at all.
A lot of green.
It's a lot of green, and it's a lot of bad visibility, and it's a lot
usually a little bit cold.
It's pretty cold most of the time, and we don't have any big animals almost. But when you go there and you spend a lot of time, you will find out that there is always something incredible to be seen anyways.
Yeah.
And I found out like throughout the last few years that we have, I mean, the European eel, for example. I spent a lot of time with that this year. I shot tons of gigabytes of the European eel, and I spoke with a scientist about it and everything, and I got so into this animal, and it's such an incredible story about this animal. And it's just like, everyone here in Denmark knows what an eel is, but they also don't know anything about what an eel is. And I would encourage everyone to just go like practice in where they live. Both practice in diving and also practice in photography and videography on whatever you have there. Also just go and see your local dive site in different environments. We went diving a couple of years ago where it was like there was ice on the water, for example. And we had, even though the visibility in Denmark is usually not that good, sometimes we can get incredible visibility here. And you will only know if you actually go diving here from time to time.
When you've been out diving and you're shooting and you come home with tons of pictures and videos, and then what do you do about it? Because so many people, they just put it on a hard drive, unfortunately.
That is definitely the primary driver for the videography course that I just wrote and started to teach. When I get to sit inside the plane home from a trip, and I'm kind of sad and I'm crying a little bit because I have to go home, that's the only thing like keeping me a little bit of spirit left in me. It's like, okay, I get to go home and offload these cards from my camera, and I get to relive my whole trip through my images and my videos. And people often ask me like, don't you feel like you're missing some of the experience sometimes because you're watching it through that camera? And to me, I don't see it that way at all. Like for me, it's like I'm writing a diary while I'm there. So I never forget these situations, and I never forget these experiences, because it's not just a picture of a manta ray, it's the picture of the manta ray that I was watching. Exactly.
And we talked a little bit before we started recording that it is that kind of an extension of the actual experience.
Exactly.
So you go diving for maybe 2 weeks, but when you get back home, you relive it. It's just the extension, because you get all the feelings again, and you that was the one.
And that must be the same for you guys as well.
100%.
When you go there and you shoot the animals, you get to live the encounter, but you also get to relive it. For example, the last trip to the Maldives, I shot a lot of photos. When you see like a shark or something, you have like the
burst mode.
You have the burst mode on, and you just you shoot a lot of shots. So the whole first step of the editing process is just actually going through, rating, finding out what are the best photos from this trip.
I've also heard from other photographers that you can maybe sometimes get into that kind of meditative state when you look through your photos and you start editing, looking for colors and stuff, like into the zone.
I really enjoy the process of that. What we talked about, it's like reliving the moment, but also it's a creative process as well. The photos that you take on the trip is like the raw ingredients, and then when you get to sit there and edit them, you're actually cooking the food. So this is my cooking time. I sit there and I find out what is the expression that I want out of these pictures. For me personally, the editing process is a big part of it. I love editing my photos, and I never actually post anything that is not been through my editing process. And it is also a big part of my style and my creative expression. And I'm trying to show my photos how they looked in my head when I saw it. So I don't care if it's completely realistic. I'm more like, what was my experience when I had this? How did it feel like? How did it feel to me? Yeah, exactly.
It totally makes sense. It was nice to be here in your studio. Also visiting Kingfish. Kingfish is the sponsor of this video. And we appreciate that. So if you want to go on diving adventures, you are up for having guests. If you want to learn about videography, photography underwater, you can also help people with that.
Yes.
But also
if you just want to learn to scuba dive.
Yeah,
we have courses all year round here in Denmark and also in Egypt and other places like that.
They have also, of course, had lots of gears, all that kind of stuff. So
definitely.
If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. No matter if it's just about underwater photography gear, if it's about scuba diving, travels, where to get some good experience, like whatever. You agreed and help answer those questions.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Perfect. And if you guys want to see more of Mick's work, like where can they see that?
I'd look up maybe my documentary, and they can also go to my Instagram. It's called Mick Friis Images.
Yeah. And thank you for watching, guys. It's been a pleasure. And it's been a pleasure being here, Mick. It's
Thank you. Yeah. The pleasure is completely on my side.
Nice. See you guys.
See ya.